Howdy y'all, and welcome back to the Texian channel. Never pay Danegeld to woke mobs. What do I mean by that? What is Danegeld? Danegeld is a word in Old English, and it literally means Danish gold. That's what it means. It started in the 900s, and it was a tribute that was paid by the English kings to the Vikings in order to try to convince them not to come over and raid English territory anymore. They'd been dealing with the raids for a long time. The English kings were getting fed up. It was expensive. It was costing them a lot. And they thought, well, maybe if we can just send them some tribute every year, they'll leave us be. And Danegeld was the tax that they put on their people to raise the funds in order to do that every year. And the idea was, hey, if you pay this tax and we pay them off, then you don't have to worry about having your farm raided and you being killed and even worse happening to your family. But as we know, anytime you do that, anytime you pay off a mob or you give some bully what they're looking for, it's only going to encourage them to come back for more. It's not going to make them go away. Anybody who's dealt with a bully understands this, right? Even if you lose the fight, it's better to have the fight with the bully and lose it than to not have it at all, because they're looking for an easy target. And so if you walk up there and you punch them in the mouth, you punch them in the nose, yeah, they may beat you, but probably after that, they're going to leave you alone. Or at the very least, not come after you quite as much. It ended up costing them a little bit. They're going to go try to find an easier target. We used to know this. We used to understand this instinctively. You look at Israel, for example, and the history of Israel. I don't think there's a group of people on the planet that are more at risk of being kidnapped or being killed in terrorism or anything like that. And the Israelis, especially under Golda Meir, who's one of the best leaders of the 20th century, in my opinion, never ever negotiated with terrorists. They didn't do it in 1972 when the athletes were taken hostage in Munich. They actually flew a party of raiders to go down to Entebbe, an air base in Africa, to rescue some citizens that had been hijacked on a plane and flown there. They were willing to do that rather than pay the mob or pay the terrorists at that point. So what does this have to do with what's going on in America right now? What does this have to do with woke mobs? Well, woke mobs are the same as those terrorists, or the same as those Vikings. They're looking for something. They're coming after you looking for something. And I think when it comes to woke mobs, they're looking for control. They're looking for power. That's what they understand. And so when you give them that power over you, that's paying Danegeld. Just like when that Anglo Saxon king would take that pot of gold and put it on a ship to, I don't know, Denmark, Sweden, wherever it was. Same concept. You're basically sending to them what they're looking for. So corporations, right? We normally talk about corporations on this channel, and what corporations are doing and what is wrong in our political and economic systems. Corporations right now are paying Danegeld to woke mobs every day. They're spending fortunes on useless and divisive DEI training, diversity, equity, and inclusion training. It doesn't work. The data's clear. It doesn't deliver the result that the training says it's going to deliver, and it actually divides people and causes more conflict than it solves. Companies know this, but they're willing to pay to have it taught to their people because, hey, they can go out and say on their next 10K, guess what? We held DEI training, so don't come after us. They're making decisions that are costing them a lot of money, too. The sports leagues are a great example of this. Have you seen the NBA's ratings? And what's happened to them since they started to push some of the things that they've been pushing to placate woke mobs that are calling on them to take all of these social justice stands? Major League Baseball moves the All-Star game out of Georgia. How much money did they lose in doing that? I mean, they may be able to make some of it back up in Denver, but they had invested a lot of money. They'd spent a lot of money that, they're going to lose in doing all of this. And they're also canceling people for Twitter outrage. Gina Carano. I mean, you can disagree or agree with her opinion there. I tend to think she was making a very good point, but did it perhaps a little ham-fisted. But there's no reason for her to be silenced and canceled and lose her job. And there's even more ridiculous things. There was that guy over in San Diego who was cracking his knuckles outside of his truck. and somebody thought he was making a white power gesture, which was a ridiculous 4chan prank. And that guy lost his job, his dream job. Why? Because it was easier to just pay the Danegeld. It was easier to just fire this guy than to do the right thing, to do the ethical thing. And what applies to corporations also applies to us in our personal lives. We can pay Danegeld too, as people. Every time we apologize, every time we try to placate these woke mobs, we're paying them Danegeld. Remember, they're looking for power. They're looking for subjugation. So if we give them that, if we lower ourselves, if we apologize to them, that's the gold that they're seeking. Just like those Vikings were seeking actual gold. So never ever apologize for an opinion, even if you recognize later on that you got it wrong. Correct it. Say, I got that wrong, but don't apologize. Don't apologize for having the opinion, because that's what they're seeking. Stand your ground for 48 hours and it'll pass. What's the point of apologizing anyway, right? It's forgiveness and reconciliation. That's what it's for. If I wrong you, and I come up and I shake your hand and apologize and say I'm sorry for what I've done, I'm doing that because I hope you'll forgive me, and we'll move on and put it past us. Reconcile and put it past us. But that's not what the woke mobs are in this for. They don't believe in forgiveness. They don't believe in reconciliation. They believe in power. So by apologizing to them, you're not going to get their forgiveness. You're giving them exactly what they want. So even if they come after you, at least make them pay a price. At least make them really pay a price for it. Don't ever, ever apologize. It takes courage, and it takes ethics, and we have a lack of both of those, and certainly in corporate America right now, and in public policy. But in our own lives, we can have that courage. So regardless of how easy or expedient it might be to pay off Danegeld, you must never, ever do it. Whether you're a corporate leader or just a regular guy. Now, the reason I chose Danegeld is because I think it's the best way to explain this concept. Rudyard Kipling is my favorite poet. He wrote a poem called Danegeld, and it's about this very topic. The last 4 lines go like this. We will never pay anyone Danegeld, no matter how trifling the cost. For the end of that game is subjugation and shame, and the nation that pays it is lost. I think that's absolutely right. And what's true of nations is true of people and companies too. If you pay the Danegeld, the end is subjugation and shame, and in the end, you'll be lost and achieve nothing for it. As always, my pleasure to talk to you. Until next time, God bless.